In a world where the lines between right and wrong often blur, the motivations of individuals can shape profound stories. Meet Agent Lara Rodriguez, a dedicated ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, agent with years of experience in law enforcement. Born and raised in a small border town, her life was shaped by the many faces of immigration, some hopeful, some desperate. From a young age, Lara witnessed firsthand the struggles of those seeking a better life. Her parents were immigrants who worked tirelessly to provide for their family, and their stories inspired her to pursue a career in law enforcement. She enrolled in college with dreams of becoming an agent who could make a difference. "I want to protect the innocent and enforce the law fairly," she often told her friends. However, as she gained experience in her field, she encountered the harsh realities of immigration policies and how they affected families like hers. Lara's passion drew her into different facets of law enforcement. She spent years investigating human trafficking and drug smuggling cases, gaining valuable insight into the underground world that many never see. Her dedication earned her a reputation as one of the best investigators in her department. But despite her success, Lara often felt torn between her commitment to enforcing laws and her empathy for those affected by them. When she was offered a chance to work undercover as an illegal immigrant, Lara felt both excitement and dread. The assignment would take her deep into communities struggling with fear and mistrust of law enforcement, communities she had once viewed from an outsider's perspective. But this was more than just an assignment. It became an internal struggle between loyalty to duty and compassion for human suffering. As she prepared for this challenging role, Lara underwent extensive training designed to help agents blend into environments they would typically not belong in. She learned about cultural customs, language nuances, and how to dress like someone without legal status, ensuring that no detail went unnoticed. This task wouldn't be easy. Many obstacles awaited her on this dangerous path. Throughout her training sessions, she shared moments with fellow agents who understood the weight of this mission. Each session echoed with stories of their reasons for joining ICE, family members lost to violence, communities threatened by crime. Yet as they expressed their support for one another's work, it was clear that each come-from story pulled at Lara's heartstrings in unexpected ways. Motivated by the desire to uncover critical information on smuggling operations exploiting vulnerable immigrants, Lara reminded herself that this mission was essential not only for fulfilling her role but also for safeguarding countless lives caught up in dangerous situations. "I can't forget why I'm doing this," she'd tell herself as she practiced adjusting wigs or altering her clothing style until it felt strange yet natural, qualities required for successful disguise. A constant mantra played over in her mind. The end goal is worth every moment of discomfort. Every detail mattered significantly. Each choice led further into the unknown depths of immigrant life on which previous government investigations had shed little light. A world where hope intertwined with fear under every decision made by both immigrants seeking safety and agents enforcing policies thousands could only dream would protect them. In preparation for entering these communities deeply rooted in secrecy, all while fearing exposure under dangerous circumstances. The pressure mounted inside Lara's chest like storm clouds before rain begins pouring down torrentially upon parched land desperate for relief. Though anxiousness surged from within every time thoughts crossed about leaving behind old certainties behind toward unknown destinies ahead, alone in emotional struggle stood testing powers beyond anything envisioned. If successful enough through disguise technique practices perfected through tireless missions coupled together layered trajectories bore eternal weight against looming fears buried deep amongst kindness shared uniquely transcending cultures existing beyond borders across governments. Adopted opinions lay affixed harder than nails, hammered down cemented beliefs viewed day after day, lending eyes within souls searching seldom found solace, escaping confinement beyond visible shackles seen, where formal boundaries existed only separated adjacent lands sought freedom under skies distant while hearts remained bound closely tethered. But Lara knew one thing. Above all else, change starts with courage, even amid uncertainty, and now was her moment. Up next lay challenges rising vertiginously formed amidst valleys filled with potential opportunity, awaiting acknowledgement, finding strength, cultivated growth, bustling amid complex narratives surrounding deportation, determining clarity granted, illuminating paths, navigating oppression, bridging gaps where darkness silently threatens, overshadowing even tiniest flickers, comforting warmth, reconnecting hearts, blissfully resisting hardship. As Agent Lara Rodriguez stood on the brink of her undercover assignment, the weight of her mission began to solidify. The operation was not merely about tracking down illegal immigrants. It had deeper objectives focused on the broader implications for both law enforcement and the communities involved. The goal was to dismantle smuggling rings that exploited vulnerable individuals, often placing them in perilous situations filled with deception and danger. Over the next few days, Lara met with her team to outline the specific goals of the operation. They aimed to gather intelligence on known smuggling routes and key players who facilitated illegal immigration. IT was essential not only to apprehend smugglers but also to shine a light on the ripple effects their actions created within immigrant communities. Communities, often caught in desperation, bore the burden of many losses, families torn apart by greed and exploitation. Protecting these vulnerable lives became Lara's driving motivation. The agents discussed intricate strategies during their meetings. They stressed the significance of building trust within the communities they would infiltrate. If we can earn their confidence, Lara's supervisor explained, we can gather invaluable information that goes beyond just arrests. We need insights into how these networks operate and how they affect people's lives. Every detail mattered. Understanding the culture that surrounded them could potentially save lives. With each meeting, Lara's heart raced as her resolve firmed. She visualized herself in the communities she would soon navigate, places where fear defined many interactions and hope seemed like a distant dream. Those fleeing dangerous backgrounds were seeking comfort, safety, and opportunities for a better life, something she understood deeply due to her own upbringing. While Lara fully embraced her mission's objectives, she also felt a tug at her conscience. Many individuals coming across borders were not criminals. They were families yearning for safety, embattled children burdened by circumstances beyond their control as they made plans to move forward. Lara reminded herself that this operation was as much about supporting the innocent as it was about enforcing laws. Training included scenarios where she experienced what it might feel like to be an illegal immigrant trying to thrive in fear-laden surroundings. Each exercise felt more real than the last. Interacting with role players posing as fellow immigrants mirrored potential realities she'd encounter on the streets. These moments heightened her awareness of how treacherous their existence could be, living under constant risk of deportation or exploitation. One day, amidst these practice sessions, an immigrant woman portrayed by an actor broke character unexpectedly. "Please remember us," she said earnestly during a break. "We are not just numbers or cases. We have lives and dreams too." That raw moment encapsulated all that Lara feared and admired. The dreams of people seeking refuge against adversity. It heightened Lara's emotional commitment to protect those who sought safer horizons while grappling with conflicting duties. Diving deep into her preparation, Lara studied various aspects of community dynamics, customs, values, language dialects, and even local cuisines. She knew that in order to effectively gain trust, she needed to understand their way of life intimately. Everything from local greetings to family traditions mattered if she hoped to blend in seamlessly. The operation's overarching aim emerged before them like a beacon. Protect each other from suffering countless avoidable hardships while enforcing laws meant to deter those who fueled exploitation for personal gain. Identifying smugglers would ideally allow authorities to restore safety for thousands waiting anxiously in shadows, with hope tethered beneath layers exhausted by fear and mistrust. Time moved swiftly toward her new life as an undercover agent. The pivotal day when she would step into the unknown loomed closer. With this hijab pulled snug around her face and clothes adapted precisely for concealment purposes inscribed upon her very being, Agent Rodriguez was prepared umpteenth times over. A sacrificial pawn laying groundwork strewn over complexities like fractured fragments aligning toward necessary change awaiting opportunities, that if successful, could allow illumination shining onto pathways straying away from darkness captive behind daunting uncertainties encompassing such vulnerable souls tucked cautiously at edges. Yearning thoughts whispered softly against wind, urging resilience, carrying truths forth. It was now time for action. Armed with knowledge, compassion, and commitment that bore far beyond formal expectations, stood ready within courageous spirit, quivering possessed tenacity, illuminating brighter realms, just waiting, amassing seeds, planted abundantly, mirrored back, unbroken bonds, treasured tightly, securing potential, waiting, rekindling flames, stronger than fears ever could. As the day of her mission approached, Agent Lara Rodriguez felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. Disguising herself as an illegal immigrant was not just about altering her appearance. It was about immersing herself in a life filled with uncertainty and peril, navigating through a world that demanded constant vigilance. Lara's transformation began with physical changes. Her supervisor provided her with clothing that resembled what many immigrants wore. Casual yet worn fabrics that showed signs of use. She learned how to wear her hair in a way that would hide her identity, often using wigs to match various hairstyles common in the community. Each piece of the disguise was essential. She understood that if she looked too different, she risked drawing unwanted attention. But changing her appearance was only the beginning. Lara also studied body language and speech patterns. She practiced speaking Spanish fluently while adding regional dialects to her repertoire, ensuring she could blend in seamlessly. Her role would not only require convincing looks but also authentic interactions. Sound like one of them, her trainer advised. You have to think like them. As Lara rehearsed conversations with fellow agents posing as immigrants, she encountered significant emotional challenges. Each practice session forced her to remember that behind every statistic were human stories, tales of hardship, hope, and survival. The weight of this reality bore down on her as she prepared for the role, making it difficult at times to separate her identity as an agent from the individuals she would soon encounter. The risks associated with undercover work loomed large in Lara's mind. In the field, she would be vulnerable, not only to dangers inherent in illegal immigration but also to potential exposure as an agent. If anyone discovered who she really was, it could jeopardize not just her life but also the entire operation and the safety of those around her. Understanding these stakes heightened her sense of urgency. One afternoon during training, Lara participated in a scenario designed to simulate a dangerous encounter with smugglers, a situation many immigrants faced daily. Agents took turns acting out roles where they navigated intense conversations under duress while striving to remain calm and composed despite overwhelming fear. Recollections of yearning for safety mixed with sharp realities cut through the air during their exercises. The tension felt almost palpable. Imagine if you were standing there without any protection, instructed one trainer during a breakout session. You can't afford to let your guard down. Every moment spent rehearsing highlighted the thin line between danger and survival, the very essence of what being an illegal immigrant entailed. With each simulation came deepening layers of understanding about the plight of those seeking refuge. A tunnel leading toward personal connections formed within community trust that remained vital for survival in such frail circumstances shadowed by fear. In preparation for the final step before going undercover, Lara had an opportunity to meet with several real immigrants who had been through harrowing experiences crossing borders illegally. Listening to their stories allowed Lara's heart to swell with compassion for their struggles, but also reminded her that this mission held significant responsibility. She aimed to represent them faithfully. Through intimate conversations shared over modest meals made from local dishes, they expressed hopes for brighter futures even while burdened by memories shrouded in pain and loss. It became clear that bridging this gap required not just empathy but genuine understanding, knowledge born from experience rather than assumption. Finally, on the day before she would step into this new life, Lara gathered everything she'd learned. Skills honed through training sessions paired with lessons derived from heartfelt exchanges shared unexpectedly among strangers turned allies momentarily aligned by dreams alive amidst uncertain futures brimming beyond daunting landscapes stretching fiercely across horizons yearning light breaking through shadows flickering where whispers hoped all could find solace navigating treacherous pathways remaining anchored against storms raging outside awaiting arrival. Tomorrow marked a turning point. She would enter communities often overlooked yet rich in vibrant existence defined by resilience against adversity. It was time for action. Each heartbeat resonating fiercely with an inspiring courage echoing across countless souls yearning for liberation, awaiting acknowledgement carrying burdens unseen beckoning transformation. After days of preparation, Agent Lara Rodriguez finally found herself stepping into the vibrant yet precarious world of undocumented immigrants. The streets were alive with activity, filled with vendors selling food from carts and children playing despite the shadows of uncertainty that loomed overhead. For Lara, who had spent so much time training for this moment, stepping into her new identity felt both exhilarating and daunting. The first encounter with other immigrants came sooner than she expected. Lara found herself in a bustling market area where different cultures converged, an intersection of dreams and struggles. As she walked among them, she made sure her posture was relaxed, Blending in as best as possible, it wasn't long before a friendly vendor approached her. "Hola! Would you like to try some elote?" he asked, offering her a corn on the cob slathered in creamy mayo and sprinkled with cheese and chili powder. It was delicious, but the warmth in his smile struck her even more. "Si, por favor," Lara replied, trying to maintain her disguise while relishing the taste of home-cooked flavors reminiscent of her own family's roots. As they chatted casually about life, she learned that he had come from Mexico 5 years ago seeking better opportunities for his family. His eyes sparkled with passion while talking about aspirations to open his restaurant one day, yet underneath lay a current of anxiety, the constant fear of deportation that shadowed every success he achieved. With every interaction like this one, Lara's heart ached more intensely for these individuals whose hopes were so close yet seemed constantly out of reach. The stories were everywhere she turned. A mother nervously holding her toddler's hand while recounting sacrifices made to flee violence. A teenager waiting anxiously at a bus stop, his backpack filled with books striving for an education against overwhelming odds. Young men whispering their dreams over shared meals of rice and beans so starkly familiar yet laced with urgency born from necessity. These initial encounters offered Lara insight into the profound emotional weight each person carried. A tapestry intricately woven together through experience rather than mere statistics or headlines published in newspapers. Real lives behind every headline blurring around issues clouded by political turmoil. One afternoon, while sitting near a community center that held ESL classes for all ages, she struck up a conversation with Sophia, a single mother who had crossed the border alone in search of safety for her daughter. With tears glistening in her eyes and hands, trembling slightly while cradling an old photograph worn from time's passage, Sophia shared memories of fleeing dangers back home. Stories layered thickly over sorrowful notes echoed softly voiced between hopeful dreams seeking life anew, explaining resilience despite excruciating trials faced head-on, a rising daily resisting despair through unwavering hope, shining forth profoundly illuminating spaces often neglected amid chaos outside. As Sophia spoke passionately about wanting her daughter to achieve greatness, a life far removed from fears embedded deep within memories, the tension seeped into the air around them. It was palpable how dire situations clashed relentlessly against aspirations, igniting promises overarching beneath surfaces long held captive, bound tightly together amidst fragments longing release. Lara listened intently while feeling torn within, each word stemming from genuine pain pulling against duty premised once so firmly entrenched inside notions defining legality. Detaching bonds binding compassion toward justice, two starkly perceived differing shades, gray emerging slowly revealing truths, obscured vision, distorted propelling understanding past obstacles imposing throughout. The weight of these personal narratives became sharper as daylight faded outside walls framing them. Soon shadows spilled ominously, threatening emerging realities creeping closer. Giving way, dusk lingered softly, carrying whispers, myriad voices becoming increasingly louder, accentuating crucial tension mounting amidst heartfelt discussions, recasting perceptions, molding future images forged anew, defying constraints, suffocating, perhaps giving birth toward strength, refusing extinguished hopes, rising alongside wisdom reborn amidst delicate threads connecting lives, interwoven, luxuriously brightening hues appearing, gently transitioning, seamlessly confronting darkness, headstrong, illuminating pathways, stretching further, allowing continuation, shining warm rays across souls yearning freedom, finding fortitude despite burdens unseen, urging forward. Though Lara remained vigilant within circumstances demanding shields manifest, often leading toward concealment. A surging resolve tingled ever stronger, gently resonated following murmurs, tightening connections, bridging sacred dreams, cradled awaiting acknowledgement, beckoning transformation, persevering, unveiling profound essence, carried steadily, risking bonds claimed amidst tangled complexities, existing distinctly bright despite limitations, pressed endlessly ready, reclaimed dignity, transforming. Discourse engaged powerful undertones, seeking clarity, remolding foundations, constructing essential futures, waiting patiently, unfurling hopes, entwined, embracing luminescence, flight, resounding across fate, compelling unity, gracing horizon, timeless, proudly marking dictate scene, lending vitality beyond borders. As Agent Lara Rodriguez settled into her role within the immigrant community, she began to realize that building trust was the key to achieving her mission's objectives. Each conversation and encounter provided opportunities for her to gather crucial information about illegal activities and connections lurking beneath the surface of everyday life. In the days following her initial experiences, Lara spent more time at the market and community center, attending local events where immigrants congregated. By engaging in conversations with various individuals, she gradually learned about their lives and, often, shared informal stories that hinted at deeper issues. It was in these moments of vulnerability that she started to uncover more significant connections related to smuggling operations. One evening, as the sun began to set and streets were painted in hues of orange and purple, she met Jose, a young man who worked at a local auto repair shop. While working on cars, Jose would often share snippets of his life with Lara, describing how he had left his family behind in search of better opportunities. Over time, however, he mentioned hearing whispers about a smuggler's network that operated within the community, people who preyed upon the dreams of vulnerable immigrants, exchanging promises for safety that rarely materialized. Lara listened intently as he described the routes used by smugglers and the notorious figures involved, each detail knitting a clearer picture of the underlying criminal activity. Fueled by trust, Jose began to confide in her more deeply about the dangers of crossing borders and how many immigrants were manipulated into paying exorbitant fees for passage. "I know people who lost everything they had just to come here," he said, his voice passionate yet heavy with sorrow. "They think they'll find work and send money home, but often they just fall deeper into debt." These snippets of information were like puzzle pieces falling into place for Lara. Each conversation broadened her understanding of how interconnected fears and aspirations drove people toward riskier choices. She recognized that Jose's perspective was not unique. Many others shared similar stories woven together by loss and desperation. Each tale she gathered would further illuminate the reality she was determined to report back to her team. Determined to uncover more, Lara actively sought out social gatherings, places where immigrants felt safe enough to speak openly about their concerns. One weekend, she attended a cultural festival held in a nearby park. Colorful decorations adorned trees while music filled the air. Laughter came from children playing in the background as parents shared traditional food. But amidst the joy existed an undercurrent of worry that Lara became increasingly aware of. While mingling with attendees, she encountered Mariana, a community organizer who worked tirelessly to support immigrant families navigating legal challenges. During their dialogue, it became clear that Mariana had first-hand knowledge about a growing trend of human trafficking disguised as employment offers. "They lure people in with false promises," she explained earnestly. "Then they either demand repayment through forced labor or abandon them without any means to survive." Lara absorbed this vital information. Details about traffickers' tactics offered insights that bolstered her understanding of not just smuggling but also exploitation faced by those desperate for a fresh start. Each tale Mariana shared pierced through her heart, igniting a fire within her to take action. As days turned into weeks, Lara's network of contacts expanded further. She met local activists who fought tirelessly for immigrant rights still shrouded in fear. They were seeking justice while facing threats from those who profited off innocence. Word spread within the community that Lara was trustworthy, someone willing to listen and advocate for their rights even if her presence carried complexities. Nevertheless, she remained cautious about revealing too much information about her true identity as an agent. The tension between her dual roles as both ally and authority often weighed heavily on her mind. Yet every encounter brought critical details closer together, a web slowly unraveling, opening doors toward nefarious practices concealed behind everyday smiles. One chilly night under flickering streetlights illuminating dimly lit corners echoed souls yearning for hope. Lara found herself in conversation with a group discussing potential routes crossing into the U.S., yet burdened by tales fraught with danger that gripped their hearts tightly, fearing consequences awaiting on unknown shores, yearning brighter futures. The collective stories enveloped her within deeper understandings of lives intertwined against shadows imposed above them. Traumatic realizations gripping emotions, igniting flames within forever etched memories. Their struggles fostered resilience, stirring encroaching dreams, refusing dissolution amid prevailing darkness. These dialogues revealed invaluable connections linking communities ranging far beyond borders, a foundation built upon trust, allowing whispers-filled possibilities, embedding courage, awakening change into existence. Each story collected fortified, her resolve further fueling commitment, seeking clarity, unveiling injustice, lingering silently below currents, roiling against surfaces, inviting transformation, alive beckoning. As Agent Lara Rodriguez settled deeper into her undercover role, the emotional weight of her mission began to bear down on her. Each day spent in the company of immigrants, individuals burdened by dreams intertwined with despair, nurtured a growing bond that both inspired and conflicted her. The faces of those she met, transformed from mere statistics into real people with hopes, struggles, and a fight for better lives. One evening, while sitting at a small cafe tucked away in the heart of the immigrant community, Lara sipped on her coffee while chatting with Mariana, a community organizer she had befriended over the past few weeks. Their conversations often revolved around the challenges faced by families seeking refuge and safety, but lately, something else weighed heavily on Lara's mind. She was living a facade while gaining their trust. Mariana spoke passionately about creating opportunities for immigrant families, advocating tirelessly for their rights, and supporting those trapped in cycles of exploitation. "These people are not criminals," she asserted firmly, her eyes filled with determination. "They are survivors, and they deserve our help." As Lara listened, she couldn't shake off the tightening knot in her stomach. She was tasked with gathering information that could lead to deportations, actions that stood in direct opposition to everything Mariana fought for and believed in. The candor of her conversations often left Lara torn between two worlds. Every story shared created an emotional connection that made her question the very foundations of her duty as an ICE agent. When Jose confided in her about his family's struggles, explaining how he had left everything behind in search of a better future, Lara felt a pang of guilt grip her heart. His dreams mirrored so closely the aspirations she knew within herself from her own family's journey. It was painfully clear he only sought security and opportunity as she built rapport with these individuals. The lines separating duty from compassion blurred further. The simple act of breaking bread together took on profound significance, a ritual where laughter mingled with sorrow. As they shared their daily lives, in those moments, Lara saw their struggles reflected in herself. An immigrant family's persistence and resilience resonated deeply within her soul. But lurking beneath these connections lay a chilling reality. If her undercover operation succeeded, she would be parting families like Jose's from their loved ones. The thought made her stomach churn as guilt mixed with resolve, the kind that pushed her forward but also held her hostage. How could she possibly reconcile being both protector and enforcer? This inner conflict haunted her during quiet moments when she reflected on what truly defined justice. One night, after an emotionally charged conversation with Mariana about recent raids conducted in nearby neighborhoods, Lara felt overwhelmed by conflicting thoughts. She watched as Mariana rallied the community to support those affected by detentions, feeling admiration for her courage but also deep sadness knowing that soon she would have to report back to her team, potentially leading to actions that threaten the very foundation of hope that these immigrants clung to so desperately. In the nights following those encounters, Lara lay awake, wrestling with feelings of loyalty towards her community and duty towards law enforcement. The tales of heartbreak rippled through her mind. Every story weighed heavier on her conscience as they strayed further from mere undercover work into matters of morality and humanity itself. It became increasingly difficult to separate Lara's identity as an agent from who she was becoming among these individuals, those marked by vulnerability yet shining brightly with resilience and courage amidst tumultuous circumstances. Decisions loomed over her like thunderclouds threatening rain. Every drop suggested a storm brewing beyond mere operations, threatening the fragile equilibrium present within those interwoven lives. Determined not to let this inner turmoil stifle her resolve, Lara sought clarity in each moment she shared with the community. Her friendships transformed the mission into something profoundly meaningful, not just hunting for smugglers or collecting intel but recognizing their humanity and fostering relationships woven together not only by fear but also by dreams waiting just beyond reach. While preparing for action on behalf of victims, caught in invisible webs formed under threats imposed outside communities bound tightly together by hope yearning escape, Agent Rodriguez found herself at a crossroads where empathy began rewriting narratives occupied exclusively by law enforcing rigidity battling outdated perceptions defining right versus wrong. Shadows lingering desperately longing acknowledgement. With every face hauntingly familiar elicited compassion awakening renewed strength echoing across choices ahead. She sensed eventually embracing change demanded authentic whispers, urging transformation, threading together all those stories told yearning liberation, ringing triumphantly far-reaching past borders unbroken as Agent Lara Rodriguez delved deeper into the immigrant community. She began to notice patterns that were troubling. The stories shared with her during casual gatherings and heartfelt conversations hinted at something far more sinister, something that transcended individual experiences, pointing toward a larger network of smuggling operations. A pivotal moment arrived one fateful evening as she gathered at a friend's home for an informal dinner. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, filled with the mouth-watering aroma of traditional dishes being prepared. Laughter echoed through the small space, mingling with soft music playing in the background. Lara felt a sense of belonging among her friends, but beneath that comfort lurked an undeniable tension as murmurs of distress arose at the table as they ate. One of the attendees, a man named Carlos, who had been relatively quiet throughout the night, finally spoke up. His voice trembled slightly as he recounted a recent experience involving a family he knew that had been exploited by smugglers. They promised them safe passage, he began, but when it came time to cross, everything changed. His eyes darkened as he continued. The family ended up trapped in a warehouse, held for ransom. They were forced to call their relatives back home for money. If they didn't pay, I heard they might not get out alive. Lara's heart raced as she listened intently. It was the first time she truly grasped the depth of danger threaded through these networks. The fear and desperation these families faced resonated with her deeply, illuminating her mission's gravity in a way she had yet to experience. The more Carlos spoke, the more she recognized that this smuggling operation extended beyond mere transportation. It was a life-threatening game played with vulnerable individuals. Over the next few days, Lara's resolve hardened as she made it her priority to gather more information about this dangerous network. She began engaging in deeper conversations with others about their experiences. Each story revealed layers of fear and desperation tied to these smuggling operations. People lured by false promises into darker realities far too complex for her to ignore. One afternoon, while scouting a local cafe known for its immigrant clientele, she met up with Jose again. Their conversation swayed toward recent concerns about an upcoming raid rumored to be targeting immigrants in their area. They're getting bolder. I've heard of families being taken out of their homes, Jose shared, casting worried glances around the cafe as though fearing someone might overhear him. He spoke about whispers of larger groups involved in trafficking people. Lara connected the dots back to what Carlos had mentioned earlier. These were pieces of a grim puzzle she now felt compelled to complete. As days turned into weeks, Lara noticed a pattern emerging among her contacts. Information painted a clearer picture of how organized the smuggling operations had become. Individuals working in tandem across borders, including connections with those living in both the U.S. and back home. Some operated as scouts on the ground, while others handled logistics from afar, making it increasingly difficult for families to escape the clutches of those preying upon them. But what struck Lara most was the revelation that this operation didn't simply exploit families financially. Many women and children were also placed in perilous situations leading to abuse or human trafficking. Stories whispered among her friends shared around tables where unity and dreaming defied odds stacked against them. Each encounter fueled her determination to dismantle this operation, but it also deepened her internal conflict. The closer she drew to uncovering these networks, the more she felt the lives intertwined. The very individuals she had befriended and come to care for stood at risk from an oppressive enterprise built upon deception and exploitation. One evening, Lara experienced an emotional turning point when Mariana invited her to speak at a community gathering aimed at organizing support for immigrant families facing threats from authorities and smugglers alike. Visibly shaken yet resolute about advocating for change among those suffocated by fear gripping tightly around them, desperate yearning acknowledgement. The meeting quickly transformed into an outpouring of shared stories, revealing personal connections to smuggling and trafficking. As they exchanged experiences laced with heartache, Lara felt burdened by the weight that pressing against her own heart demanded resolution. As she stood there listening intently, surrounded by faces echoing empathy and resilience reflected within herself, born anew. Reality gripping trepidation, igniting powerful resolve, awakening hearts. These families' stories deserved not only recognition but action. With newfound clarity crystallizing amidst emotional turbulence, igniting flames, inspiring courage burning brightly within. A determination rose further than ever before. She faced unwavering resolve, illuminating pathways, encouraging safety where shadows lingered dimly, threatening lives vastly yet intertwined, emerging victorious, collectively weaving transformation into existence, rising above cycles, imparting hope across communities often rendered invisible, standing powerfully together. The mission had become so much greater than just an undercover operation. It was about lives hanging in the balance amid fragile aspirations yearning to breathe free. It was time for Agent Rodriguez to turn her compassion into action and unravel this tangled web, threatening precious souls longing escape from unseen chains. After gathering significant intelligence about the smuggling network, Agent Lara Rodriguez knew it was time to take action. With her understanding deepening and her heart heavy with the stories of those she had befriended, she reached out to her ICE team to coordinate a larger operation aimed at dismantling the intricate web of exploitation she had uncovered. Lara scheduled a meeting with her supervisor, Agent David Chun, and other key members of the IC unit as they gathered around a table in the office. Lara felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. She needed to present her findings clearly and effectively to ensure her team understood the urgency of the situation. The stakes were high, not just for herself but for the countless lives hanging in the balance. "Thank you all for coming," Lara began, her voice steadier than she felt. "I've been undercover in the immigrant community for several weeks now, and I've learned a lot about how these smuggling operations work." She shared the stories she had collected. The families trapped in warehouses, the false promises made by smugglers, and the desperate conditions they endured. The room was silent as her colleagues listened, absorbing the gravity of each account. "This is more than just a law enforcement issue. It's a humanitarian crisis," she emphasized. Her colleagues nodded in agreement, their expressions solemn. The tension in the air was palpable as Lara detailed the connections between various individuals she had encountered, outlining how these illicit networks operated seamlessly across borders. Agent Chun took notes as he processed her information. "So, based on what you're saying, we need to look beyond just arrests. This is a coordinated effort involving multiple players, and we could be saving lives by taking them down comprehensively." Lara nodded vigorously. "Exactly. We need an operation that not only targets the smugglers but also provides protection for the vulnerable families caught in this situation. If we act too quickly without proper timing and coordination, we risk putting those families in immediate danger." The complexity of her mission lay not just in enforcement but in ensuring the safety of innocent people. As ideas began to flow, the team brainstormed strategies for gathering further evidence while maintaining their undercover approach to avoid alerting the organized crime groups involved. They discussed potential surveillance methods and various starting points for raids that would allow them to collect intel without compromising sensitive information or endangering families. "That's crucial," one agent interjected. "We need to ensure that any action taken will minimize collateral damage. The last thing we want is to perpetuate fear within the communities that already live under threat." With collaborative energy igniting around the table, Lara felt a renewed sense of purpose. Together, they mapped out their plan, identifying key players to target based on Lara's observations and connectings that pointed back to head traffickers operating from both sides of the border. As the meeting wrapped up, Agent Chun looked directly at Lara. "Your insights are invaluable in this operation. You've developed relationships that we can leverage for intel moving forward." The praise warmed her heart but also deepened her worry. She implicitly understood that any operation resulting from her groundwork could lead to actions against individuals she had come to care for profoundly. Walking back to her car afterward, Lara's mind raced with mixed emotions. The excitement of proactive measures coupled with dread about what those measures might mean for her new friends in the immigrant community. Would her involvement in this larger operation betray their trust? Could she stand idly by if anyone she knew became a target during their efforts? Determined not to forget why she entered this line of work, Lara reminded herself of her mission's purpose: to protect those who suffered at the hands of exploitative systems that manipulated dreams into nightmares. She wanted justice for people whose lives were at stake, a service far beyond mere deportation numbers but rather a push towards safety and dignity. When night fell, Lara returned home feeling like she was not only an agent but also a lifeline woven into countless narratives unfolding behind shadows. A bridge connecting dreams with reality breached by darkness lurking outside hope. In preparation for the upcoming operation, Lara sought to gather even more intelligence from her community contacts. understanding that every piece of information could lead to critical developments in their quest for justice. The next few days promised intensity as her life became entwined deeply within larger frameworks aimed at ending exploitation once and for all. As she immersed herself further into planning while balancing her relationships carefully within both worlds. That cloaked connection kept alive, desperately yearning acknowledgement, urging transformative change. The mission encompassed more than success alone. It encapsulated every story faced bravely, dancing boldly amid fears, solidifying resiliency, urging liberation toward futures filled with possibility, awaiting joy. The morning of the operation dawned with a sense of urgency and uncertainty that filled the air as Agent Lara Rodriguez prepared to execute the plan she and her ICE team had meticulously crafted. She stood outside the designated meeting point, a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of town, where the operation would unfold. The sun was yet to fully rise, casting long shadows that seemed to reflect the weight of the task ahead. Lara inhaled deeply, her heart racing as she reviewed her role for the day. She would act as a liaison between her team and the immigrant community, using her familiarity with the locals to gather intel and help guide the operation without raising suspicions. Despite feeling a mixture of excitement and dread about what lay ahead, she reminded herself of her commitment to protecting vulnerable lives. AS agents began to assemble. Lara's supervisor, Agent David Chun, gathered everyone for a final briefing. Today's goal is clear. We're not just targeting smugglers. We want to dismantle the entire network. We need to operate with precision and care, ensuring that we minimize risks for innocent families caught in this web. His voice was firm but laced with understanding of the emotional complexities involved. The team split into smaller units, each assigned specific roles. Some would conduct surveillance while others prepared to intercept known smugglers based on the intelligence Lara had provided. As they set into motion, Lara felt a mixture of adrenaline and anxiety surge within her, knowing that every decision they made could impact lives. Stay close, she reminded her partners as they moved through the bustling streets, which were now alive with morning activity. The vibrant sounds of vendors calling out their wares mixed with chatter filtering through the air felt almost surreal amidst the impending tension. Lara's knowledge of the community became invaluable as they approached a location suspected of being a drop-off point for smuggled immigrants. Her heart thumped loudly in her chest when she spotted a group of men discussing plans in hushed tones near a parked van. A quick glance at Jose's face, familiar figure from her previous interactions, made her realize he was among them, simply unaware of what might transpire. "Jose!" she called out. Suddenly worried that he might be implicated in something dangerous, he turned, his face registering shock at seeing her there. "Get out of here!" she warned, desperation lacing her voice. "It's not safe." But before he could respond, Agent Chun signaled to move INS. They executed their plan. Chaos erupted. Agents swiftly surrounded the group, announcing their presence as law enforcement and directing individuals away from potential danger zones. The men attempted to flee, but the agents were prepared. They had anticipated such actions. Within moments, several smugglers were apprehended, handcuffed, and led away from the scene, while others remained confused about what was happening. In that moment of arresting tension, Lara felt a wave of emotions wash over her. She wanted to protect Jose from this fate, yet she also knew they needed to act decisively against those exploiting vulnerable lives. Despite her efforts to spare him from harm, she couldn't shake off the weight of responsibility pressing down on her heart. As agents processed the captured smugglers, Lara continued to engage with those who had been caught in the crossfire. Families who had been promised safety but now found themselves in danger once again. Her conversations were laden with empathy as she offered reassurances that help would come for them too. Throughout this harrowing experience, Lara repeatedly reminded herself of her mission's core purpose: to protect innocents and dismantle the networks that endangered their lives. Each person she spoke with echoed their hopes and fears, illuminating the human aspect behind each statistic and headline she had previously encountered. Hours passed in a whirlwind of activity as more families were rescued from potential harm. The operation proved successful beyond expectations, leading to numerous arrests while simultaneously allowing agents to connect families with resources aimed at providing support through advocacy. Once all was said and done, and the dust settled on what felt like an emotional battlefield, Lara found herself standing beside Agent Chun at their staging area. "We did well today," he said, pride seeping into his tone as he surveyed their progress. But for Lara, the relief was bittersweet. While justice had been served against those who exploited vulnerable lives, she was acutely aware of the ongoing struggles faced by those left behind. Each person's story burned vividly in her memory. Their hopes intertwined with fears woven together amidst realities that felt impossibly daunting. With a determined heart and renewed purpose, Lara committed herself to ensuring that these stories would not be forgotten. While today marked a victory in their fight against smuggling networks, she understood that it was merely one battle in a much larger war against exploitation. One that would require vigilance and compassion moving forward as she forged ahead toward brighter tomorrows, woven from resilience and hope. In the aftermath of the operation, Agent Lara Rodriguez found herself standing on the edge of a new reality that felt both liberating and heavy. The dust of the day's chaotic events settled as she sat alone in her car, parked outside the warehouse where they had executed their plan. Her heart was still racing, but now it was mixed with a profound sense of reflection. They had successfully apprehended several smugglers, and for the first time, Lara witnessed firsthand the tangible results of their efforts. But alongside that success loomed a wave of emotions she struggled to process. She thought back to the faces of those caught in the crossfire, families shaken by fear yet filled with hope when they learned that help was on the way. During the operation, moments etched themselves into her memory. The cries of relief mingled with anxiety as agents assured families they would be supported. Yet there were darker shadows too. She recalled how Jose's face paled at the sight of agents moving in. The image haunted her, reminding her that even in moments of justice, personal connections could lead to unintended consequences. As she reflected on everything she had experienced, Lara realized her perspective had shifted dramatically throughout this mission. Initially driven by a clear-cut aim to enforce the law and protect vulnerable lives, she now understood that enforcement often came with collateral damage. Real people caught up in circumstances beyond their control. The true impact of her actions weighed heavily on her heart as she thought about Jose and others like him who navigated a dangerous world with dreams that transcended borders. Each story shared, each laugh and tear exchanged during those months spent undercover, had intertwined with her own experiences. Growing up in an immigrant family, she felt compelled to honor those stories by fighting for justice in a way that acknowledged their humanity. When Lara finally returned to her home later that night, exhaustion washed over her like an unwanted wave crashing against rocks. She slid into bed but found sleep elusive. Instead, she replayed each moment from the day in vivid detail. The arrests made, families rescued, and painful goodbyes whispered amidst lingering uncertainties. Inextricably tied to this mission were unresolved questions about what tomorrow held for those individuals. She picked up her phone and scrolled through contacts until she landed on Mariana's name, the community organizer who had become a trusted ally during this journey. With trembling fingers, Lara typed out a message. "Can we meet soon? I want to talk about how we can continue supporting families." Pressing send felt like taking a leap into an uncertain future. A commitment not just to uphold law but also to advocate for compassion amid rigid policies. The days following the operation proved challenging yet transformative. Lara began collaborating more closely with Mariana and other community leaders to establish resources aimed at helping families access legal support and navigate the complexities surrounding immigration issues. Their partnership blossomed into initiatives focused on educating immigrants about their rights while providing emotional support networks for those traumatized by their experiences. Through these efforts, Lara discovered renewed purpose woven through difficult conversations about resilience and advocacy, a chance to truly bridge divides rather than enforce barriers set between them. The community responded positively. Parents brought their children along to workshops where information conveyed was deeply rooted in trust established through shared experiences. Even as she continued her role as an ICE agent committed to enforcing laws designed for security and safety, Lara understood clearly now that justice required more than mere enforcement. It demanded empathy grounded firmly within humanity itself. One evening, while working late at the office after helping organize another local event aimed at empowering immigrants, Lara caught sight of herself in a mirrored surface reflecting back not just an agent but also someone transformed by determination, echoing stories told passionately, resonating far beyond borders, existing vividly bright, illuminated pathways urging possibilities, yet unseen beckoning futures thriving toward liberation. She felt stronger than ever before, armed with newfound clarity, reminding herself always that within every action taken lay ripple effects significantly impacting lives entangled deeply within broader narratives, waiting acknowledgement, rising steadfastly beyond confines, breaking free unbroken. With urgency igniting purpose, threading courage onward, inspiring collective healing, embracing pathways seldom traveled. The mission now encompassed so much more than enforcing immigration policies. It represented an unwavering pursuit toward forging brighter tomorrows built from love, transcending boundaries, thriving together. In the weeks following the operation, the immigrant community reacted to the events with a mixture of relief, anxiety, and anger. News of the operation spread quickly, and while many families felt a sense of safety knowing that some smugglers had been apprehended, there were also deep-seated fears about what law enforcement meant for their own futures. The complexities of their feelings painted a vivid picture of a community caught in a difficult position. One evening, Lara attended a community meeting organized by local leaders to discuss recent events. The atmosphere hummed with tension as families gathered to voice their concerns and seek clarity about the implications of the arrests. Lara stood at the back of the room, listening intently as people shared their stories and emotions. Faces filled with worry reflected both gratitude for the agents who had acted against smugglers and resentment toward IC for its potential impact on their lives. An elder woman named Rosa spoke first. "We are thankful that some bad men have been caught," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But we also live in fear that those who protect us will turn against us. How do we know we won't be next?" Her question hung heavily in the air as murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Lara felt her heart sink at these words. She understood Rosa's fears intimately. She had seen firsthand how fragile trust was within these communities, how easily it could be shattered by one misstep from law enforcement. Though she was there to help bridge gaps, she also recognized she was part of an organization that many viewed with suspicion. Another man raised his hand, his frustration boiling over. "Every time you come into our neighborhoods, we feel hunted. You say you're here to protect us, but it feels like you're here to catch us." His outburst elicited gasps among those present, but Lara could feel his pain behind his words. The struggle between wanting safety and fearing betrayal as discussions continued. Lara realized that this meeting served as a crucial moment for reflection within herself as well. It was not just about arresting criminals. It was about understanding how actions resonated deeply within lives intertwined with fear and hope alike. Mariana stepped forward to address the crowd, her presence commanding respect. "What has happened is complicated," she explained gently. "Yes, some bad people have been removed from our midst, but we must create a path forward together, one built on trust rather than fear." Her voice offered solidarity while inviting dialogue, a glimmer of hope amid uncertainty. Lara felt compelled to speak up herself after observing how passionately Mariana engaged with those around them. "I'm here because I care about this community," she said firmly yet compassionately. "We want to work together to ensure your safety without jeopardizing anyone's future." The room fell silent as her declaration lingered in their minds, an invitation for understanding amid skepticism. Though responses varied, some nodding cautiously while others remained doubtful, she sensed an opening for conversations about collaboration rather than confrontation. This was not just her fight or ICE's fight. It required collective action where voices rose together seeking justice wrapped tightly around humanity. Days turned into weeks filled with community engagement initiatives aimed at rebuilding trust between law enforcement and immigrants living under scrutiny daily. Workshops were held inviting families to understand their rights while fostering open channels for communication, allowing worries expressed freely without harsh judgment looming overhead, intimidatingly threatening trust building. Over time, Lara watched as connections blossomed within neighborhoods often isolated by fear. Parents bringing children along, learning empowerment through knowledge-sharing sessions, fostering dialogues, inspiring open hearts, emboldened rising, seeking futures filled with possibility, yearning liberation, emerging slowly beyond constraints imposed relentlessly from outside forces, pressing upon dreams, longing acknowledgement, waiting patiently beneath surfaces, extending hands, reaching toward light. Beckoning brighter tomorrows, alive, bursting hope, illuminating paths seldom traveled. Still aware of lingering tensions tethered tightly beneath skin, A fabric woven intricately above doubts, coalescing threads, brimming life experiences shared echoed, vibrantly promising transformation, igniting flames, urging resilience, warming souls, nurturing visions, expansive paving roads, leading onward toward unity, defying barriers constructed long ago, preventing access towards flourishing existence, filling spaces wrapped affectionately surrounding, nurturing embraces, love, advocating change alive. Resonating. Lara understood now more than ever. It wasn't merely about enforcing laws or capturing criminals. This mission transcended traditional definitions, weaving itself intricately into lives woven from courage, stitched together resolutely against storms brewing outside, striving unyielding toward brighter horizons. As Agent Lara Rodriguez reflected on her experiences throughout the undercover operation, she found herself at a pivotal crossroads, contemplating the intricate balance between law enforcement and compassion. The complexities of her role as an ICE agent had become more evident than ever. She understood that enforcing immigration laws was not simply about apprehending criminals, but also involved navigating the deeply intertwined lives of vulnerable individuals who sought safety and opportunity. The emotional weight of the decisions she made weighed heavily on her heart. Each arrest carried with it the potential for collateral damage, families torn apart and lives irrevocably altered by actions taken in pursuit of justice. She had witnessed firsthand how fear permeated the immigrant community, shaping their realities and creating an atmosphere of wariness toward those meant to protect them. This reality forced her to confront the uncomfortable truth that law enforcement could be perceived as both guardian and oppressor. Lara recognized that her dual identity, as an agent committed to upholding the law and as someone who empathized with those living under constant threat, would continue to shape her future work. The relationships she had forged with individuals like Jose and Mariana were not merely fleeting connections. They represented a commitment to understanding the human experience behind every statistic. The stories she had gathered during her time undercover became a powerful reminder that, at the heart of every enforcement action, there existed real people with dreams, aspirations, and fears. Moving forward, Lara felt a renewed resolve to advocate for a more compassionate approach to immigration issues. Her experiences compelled her to seek collaboration with community leaders and organizations dedicated to supporting immigrant rights. She envisioned programs aimed at educating families about their rights, while fostering relationships built on trust, rather than fear. These initiatives would bridge gaps between law enforcement and communities often viewed with suspicion. One particular initiative took shape when Lara proposed workshops designed to educate immigrants about legal processes while simultaneously addressing their concerns about safety. With the support of Mariana and other advocates, they planned sessions where families could ask questions openly without fear of judgment or reprisal. The aim was not only to inform but also to empower individuals, helping them reclaim agency over their own narratives in a world that often left them feeling powerless. As she engaged in these efforts, Lara's perspective shifted further. She began to see her role not solely as an enforcer of laws but as an advocate for justice within a larger framework of humanity. Every workshop held, every story shared, reinforced her belief that effective change required empathy woven into policies, a recognition that migration is often born out of desperation rather than criminal intent. Additionally, Lara explored ways to foster dialogue among different stakeholders, law enforcement officials, community leaders, and immigrants themselves, to cultivate a shared understanding aimed at reforming outdated practices that perpetuated cycles of fear. By facilitating conversations that embraced diverse perspectives, she hoped to encourage collaborative solutions that addressed systemic issues without sacrificing dignity or safety. However, she recognized that change would take time. Deeply rooted perceptions would not shift overnight. Yet each small step taken toward building trust felt monumental against a backdrop fraught with challenges. The community's responses filled her with hope. Families began attending workshops eager to learn, their faces lighting up with empowerment as they gained knowledge previously inaccessible. Reflecting on these experiences reminded Lara why she joined ICE in the first place. Not simply to enforce laws, but also to contribute positively within complex social frameworks impacting countless lives. The journey ahead would undoubtedly present obstacles. Tensions would rise again, misunderstandings would occur, but now there existed a foundation upon which healing could begin. Ultimately, Lara's work evolved into something profoundly meaningful. It transcended mere policy enforcement and transformed into an unwavering commitment toward advocacy, grounded in humanity's collective struggle for justice. Her mission continued unfolding like delicate threads weaving through countless hearts yearning for acknowledgement. An undeniable reminder that love should guide actions taken toward uplifting communities often marginalized by societal norms demanding conformity without compassion. As she prepared for future initiatives aimed at uniting law enforcement with immigrant communities through understanding and solidarity, a deeper layer emerged, illuminating pathways leading unbroken toward brighter tomorrows crafted from resilience blending beautifully amidst diversity, rising boldly together.